All right, welcome to another episode of the Critical Introvert Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Senor Filth. I'm joined by supermodel Jordan Farmer and philosopher.
Hardly, hardly. But thank you. Um,
Just here today talk about his good looks.
I got written up at work for being too handsome. No.
Yeah.
It's funny. I got called in to actually become a full timer, and
Mhm.
after I left the HR office, that's what I told everybody.
Yeah.
It was funny. Gets good laughs.
um,
Anywho, well,
all right.
anyways, folks, hi. Yeah, I'm a man with many political opinions, and uh, I like cutting through the BS, and I like trying to get everyone to get along and see things for what they are, which is just problems that need to be solved. So I'm here. I am a returning guest, and I'm very grateful to be so. This has been a cool program to contribute to, and in many different ways. Uh, Podcasts have gone some interesting directions for sure. Please check those out. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about the news of the week with you guys, and we'll see
let's
where this goes.
let's just fucking do it. Anything going on? It's been slow, right? I'm just kidding. I guess
There's a few things that have happened in the news as of late, actually. One or
yeah,
two
it seems
events.
like yeah, it seems like a fucking like a greatest hits kind of thing just happened this past week. Let's just get to it. I guess the first thing, I mean, of course, it's just the Monday, the shooting that happened. And help me out. I'm a little fuzzy on where was it. Tennessee?
Um, honestly, I don't recall. I don't recall
Well, anyways,
where it
I
was
guess
exactly, which is a real shame. That
yeah.
that just shows that I did not do my prep. But anyways, I yeah, it was crazy that the footage came out so
Hmm.
quickly. It
Yeah,
made it very visceral
that's
for
the thing
everyone.
that really surprised me. I was thinking that would come out like maybe by next week, but then a day or two later. It was
Yeah.
interesting too, like seeing just like the kind of conspiracy theory kind of come in that it was something like fuck. It was someone took like two photos of feet of the person and thought like one picture was them wearing Pumas and another was like them wearing Vans, so they thought there was some weird stage hoax things, but like that was one of those embarrassing ones that I just come on guys, it's just stupid.
Yeah, I the unfortunate truth is that's kind of above my pay grade intellectually to speak to those types of events. Uh, Fake events have happened before,
Hmm.
but um, I've adopted the principle that if most people believe it's on the up and up, then I should act as if it's on the up and up, whether it is or not. Just because it serves as a point of friction to like try to pull people into believing the system is that corrupt. If you can make it a little bit more
Yeah.
digestible for certain people, they'll do it. It makes sense to me that the footage was released because the police departments across the country are very conservative, um,
Hmm.
and the individuals as well as like their political affiliations and their unions, um, and uh, the obviously the conservatives are sort of in a war to uh, maintain the understanding that transgender people are mentally ill. Now, I don't believe mentally ill means bad or evil. Mentally ill just means not quite right in their perceptions of reality. And this serves that purpose that the trans. I've never seen the conservatives talk about a shooting as a problem as much as they are now because it crosses over uh, you know, this political point with the transgender thing, where it's a proof positive that some of these people can be very disturbed and some of these people are not right. And when you treat every trans person like, a saint, give them
Yeah.
saint status for nothing regarding their character, it creates a problematic situation. But this is the manifesto that this person,
Has it
put
been
out there,
has
and
it
their
been
beliefs.
released?
Hmm?
Has it been released, the manifesto?
I think it's been I think it's somewhere out there,
I remember
but
hearing about it,
I've
but
just heard analysis on it.
yeah.
But the heart of it was just the heart of all of the manifestos that I've ever read snippets of. I don't usually read the whole thing. Is some sort of a resentment and a hatred of
Yeah.
normal people, of reality, of wholesomeness, because they feel like they don't fit, and so they uh, take out their discomfort and their
Yeah.
psychosis on people, on the most innocent. That's why they target children. Why would you go there?
Yeah.
Instead of to more specific problems. It's a
I
act of evil.
guess it's kind of just get into just broader um issues with this whole thing. I look at this and I guess just try to like sort of go into like all the factors that we can think of that could have contributed. Societal factors. Like for me, I think one is just the general kind of uh, just I guess like how unhappy a lot of people really are with their state with themselves.
How unhappy a lot of people are with what?
It's just with themselves and where they are
Mm.
in life, and like I'm not saying that I have all the my everything figured out and and all that shit, but I'm not. I don't have anxiety like I see like people nowadays. I don't have any of that shit. I don't. I don't need to like smoke weed to like chill at fucking 2 p.m. in the afternoon just to get milk. You know what I mean? Um,
Not all of us are perfect, Mr. Phil.
I mean, but
Anyways,
but yeah, like I guess like what would you think could be something that's driving people to like just be so unhappy?
um, uh,
But like, what would be like
it, it's
a
it's
top
it's
of the
a
head thing that you can think
I
of?
think it's bad psychology, because your feelings are responses to your situation. They're like a guiding mechanism. It will not always be correct, but it gives you rough senses of how things are, and your part of your brain is just interpreting the data in a raw way, and that's
Hmm.
the part where the emotions come from. And whether or not that data or your model of understanding is correct can influence that. But sorry, that was kind of weird to get into. Anyways, people just don't. People are stuck in a situation where they know that they're not perfect. They know that they're imperfect. They don't understand why necessarily, and they feel like there's no out. The solutions to this, the thing that gets people out of this, is an understanding that we evolve and we have micro psychological, evolution over our
Hmm.
life, and you can grow, you can level up, and you can become a better person, and you're not trapped in who you are at the moment. And it's not about you. You can implicitly understand the ideal you. Like we all kind of have this image in our minds of what our ideal self is. It's not. This isn't voodoo I'm talking about. This is kind of obvious. Like it could be
Yeah,
better. It could be worse. What is the most better one?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and we understand there's a gap there between where we are and where we could be. And instead of understanding that this is all kind of a crazy mess unfolding and we are just human, and so like cut yourself a break, you know, um, we and just try to take it as it unfolds piece by piece instead of kind of always going to the ideal and saying you're not good enough yet, because you will always not be good enough. The job
Yeah.
will never be done.
Yeah, that's the kind of
That's the whole
vibe.
thing about living. The job is never done
Yeah,
until you're dead.
like that's the kind of vibe I've been getting for, you know, I think probably since COVID, but just this vibe of like people not believing that they can better they are, and just being stuck at what, just being stuck and being kind of sadly comfortable with that state of mind. It's, you know, when it comes to
Your
just like,
happiness can't come from approval from others. It has to come from some intrinsic stable aspect of yourself or your life. You know, you
mm,
have to have something stable to pull that from. Um, and it's not obvious. It takes a lifetime.
mm-hmm,
But I feel like I've leveled up in a significant way in the last couple of years in this arena.
mm-hmm,
And in my current living situation, there's a lot of evidence of that. A lot of things that are getting fixed, a lot of improvements that are being made. I'm actually weighing myself on a weekly basis and trying to trim down the
it's
fat
good.
and like dialing it in.
Yeah.
Taking opportunities to do extra physical work at my
Mm-hmm.
job so that I can, you know, get a little extra cardio in. Just looking for
Yeah.
what I can get when I can get it, and yeah, it's but it takes a long time. I've been trying. I've been aware of the growth mindset
Yeah. Same
for
here. I mean,
half my life.
yeah, like my weight, like I lost a bunch of weight like 3 years ago or something like that, and then since then I've been kind of on, you know, I don't use that as an excuse to stop. Still
Hmm.
continue to like try to like, okay, today I'm going to do this. Today I'm going to lift. Or to fucking,
Do you ever struggle with self judgment with that?
what do you mean?
Um, for me, I wasn't so much. I didn't care so much about the way I looked. I didn't care about being pretty. I cared about like, am I physically competent? Am I putting in the effort to be my best
Mm-hmm.
self physically? And when I knew I wasn't, I would be way too judgmental of myself and just beat myself up for being a fat piece of shit. That would be my language. My internal conversation would be, you
Yeah.
know, you tub of lard. And I've learned over the years that it has to, true progress has to come from self esteem and love. You have
Yeah.
to want to be healthy because you deserve to be healthy because you care about yourself. And that's
Yeah.
a totally different thing than don't eat that stuff because you're a bad fat person. Like it's an entirely different, you know,
Yeah.
conception of the whole thing. And it's taken a while. I've struggled. So I've struggled. That's why I asked the question. I've struggled with
Um.
criticism of myself and
I
beating
mean,
myself up for not being perfect
yeah.
in that
I
arena.
mean, I guess when I see that like I'm not making the progress that I hope I should be making, that does come into play. Um, but I don't let it kind of hold me down, I guess. I just kind of say, okay, well, I didn't lose that much weight this week. Next week I'll just try to get better. And, sometime, and maybe next week comes and I maybe gain a pound or something. It sucks for a day, but then I just, you know, use that to continue. And, you know, even if I would say like this last year, weight's kind of gone up and down and I haven't really made that much progress. I'm still generally like, it's better that I'm at least working out here and there than not working out at all. Better that I'm, you know, still watching what I'm eating and just eating cake and cup of noodles and shit like that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, cause I generally just feel better when I stay away from being that type of person.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
when
yeah,
I was,
I was gonna say, like in your complexion and your skin, like you look very vital. Like you've got good color, you got good clarity. You
oh,
know,
stop
you don't
it.
look like great.
Yeah.
Stop it. But no, you do. And
Thank you.
obviously, like as the weight fluctuates, you know, the lethargy, that just feeling,
Yeah.
the gunk in the system, it can be a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the phrase? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard that one.
Yeah. Well,
It's a good
I
one.
skipped that. I hacked the whole system and just plan on failing about 15 to 20% of the time. You know, with my diet, with exercising, with all that. I'm like, I know I won't be perfect. I'm not even going to take a second to care about the times that I miss. I'm just going to just try to like with anything, just try to take it like one step at a time. Like
Hmm.
instead of reading 10 pages a day, just read. And when you
Yeah.
can read and try to read regularly, but like just I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a lot of
It's
habit stuff. The stuff that you happen to think of every day to do is a lot of what determines what you do in your life. So it's reminders and cues and stuff is important. Have you ever heard of the book Atomic Habits?
mm,
I think James Clear is
no, I
the
don't think
author.
so.
Worth checking out. A lot of good stuff in that. He really gets to the like the most of our habits are like there's a cue and it reminds us of something and then we act and like
Yeah.
that's the core of everything that we do. And so he kind of has a bunch of little simple hacks that he illustrates through the book that help you use that to your advantage. So like an example would be habit stacking. So if you always play your Xbox, when you get home from work, then you attach to that, you set a 45-minute timer, and then you go do the dishes after or
Hmm.
something like that. And you try to tie what you do to what you want to do. And then eventually the stuff you don't want to do, you cut out. But
Right.
uh, it's cool. It's a great book. Worth checking out.
Hey, one thing I do struggle with is like how to balance like not uh, how would I put this, like not having such a structure and having some kind of like openness so I can at least enjoy my day somewhat. Like it sucks that I don't play, like I don't hang out with my girl as much this last few weeks because I've been really scrambling to do this editing thing that I've been working on for my movie show, and and it sucks because I see that she gets kind of annoyed, but I also want to finish movie show and get good at that so I can have that under my kind of belt of things I can do. Um, so I mean,
Trade offs, man.
stuff like
It's
that
good.
really is hard. And plus, I'm
It's
like,
hard.
plus I'm trying to make art so I can vend more. Trying to start my music show, and it's just like I'm trying to like hang out with people. You know what I mean? So that's I think one of the things that is the hardest to kind of try to get through is like doling out like when is my I don't have to worry about building or this person. I could just enjoy myself, kind of that whole thing. So, but that's
I
enough.
I struggle with the exact same thing, but
Yeah.
what you're saying made me think of when I would petition,
Mm-hmm.
because petitioning is a weird type of job. Collecting signatures for political stuff, you get paid per signature. You have to find the place to do it. You have to get set up. You have to get yourself out there early enough to beat other people trying to do it,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have to learn how to talk to people, uh, cold selling them as they walk into a Save Mart about politics for
Mm-hmm.
12 hours a day seasonally. It's just such a weird job
Yeah.
to do, but it developed skills. And the ultimate sort of psychological barrier I got over was just show up and be at peace with the results. So editing, like you don't know how much editing you're going to get done, but if you just show up for 20 minutes of editing, you're good. If
Yeah.
you want to have 3 hours with your girl every day or something, then you just show up and like just be relaxed and like what happens happens. If I'm tired, I'm tired.
Yeah.
We're doing our thing. Um, I'm kind of this is what I'm thinking for myself as well. I gotta remember this myself to just show up and be at peace with the results. I remember one time when I petitioned, I showed up at like 1 in the afternoon, way later than I should have. And I did not want to do it. Every ounce of me couldn't do it. But I showed up, I got set up. I was there for 3 hours. That was my guaranteed minimum. I was like, that's the least I'm going to do on a day. Made it to 4 o'clock and left. And I did not pitch a single person. I did not speak to a single person. I did not have single per. I had one person sign in 3 hours, and they just volunteered. They're just like, "Oh, what is this?" And I was like, "Oh, it's this," and then they sign. Um, that was a pain in the ass to go through, but it was just I kept telling myself, I'm like, I don't have to pitch these people. They don't have to sign. I just have to be here, and I have to stay here for 3 hours. And it that giving in that I did with that helped a lot. So yeah, and it's like your best isn't this thing separate from what you give,
Mm-hmm.
because I think everyone wants to give their best implicitly. It's not like there are people that are like, I really, really want to just like fail miserably. Like I don't think anyone is like, oh, that's my goal.
Yeah.
Um, so what you give on a day-to-day basis is what you can give on a day-to-day basis. There's not
Yeah.
that gap between. I used to think like, I should be a straight A student and have everything organized, and I should have all my life together, and I should be a billionaire by 22, and like
Yeah.
like this it just gets crazy. And yeah, I'm just a is it rag and bone man? I'm only human. Like we really are. No, yeah, and that a lot of what we talked about earlier made me think of spiritual stuff, and like we are animals emerging up out of Mother Nature, but we understand right and wrong, unlike a lot of other animals, and we have to make choices about that. So it's a stressful existence.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I guess let's get into like the spiritual factor of all this shooting. That because I've been saying for months that even as someone I would admit kind of agnostic, I see what's going on. Or I have been seeing what's going on. I've always had friends here and there that said other friends that pay attention to that stuff, and I can definitely tell that the people that were had some kind of religious backbone in them, they were a lot more chill compared to the other. Everyone else was just so anxiety driven, just nervous. Religious people, they were just they were a lot more calm. They had this. Do you hear a cat? No. Okay. No, it's my cat. I just wanted to yell and want to make sure she's not on the mic. Anyways,
I didn't
uh,
hear anything.
okay. But yeah, just noticing just people that have some kind of faith in them. Um, like I will say with COVID, no matter what you believe in, or like at least it reminded people that death is very real. And like as soon as I came to the realization that COVID was to people, I kind of just I thought like, how are people that don't have some kind of religious background, how are they going to react? So like these last couple of years have been just like an experiment for me to just watch people that don't have that and see how they react and compare them to the people who are religious and see how they are. And I can totally see a complete, like how it affects the non-religious people. Like they're just they 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 become so nihilistic that it generally just worry me because living nihilistically, like you're just going to be empty inside, and that's just not good for anyone.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree. It's I want to definitely touch on the spiritual aspect of everything that I see going on with the shooting and everything that surrounds it. But I want to address what you were just saying from a more secular, atheistic perspective. There's an advantage that um, people get. um, there's an advantage that people get whenever they have traditional wisdom and uh, guidance on their side. When you are an atheist or you grow up outside of any kind of church tradition and you grow up separate from that, and some churches are just shallow and you're not going to get anything deep and meaningful from the pastor there. They're just there to get some tithes,
mhm.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
um, the number of good potent pastors is just fixed, and there's not, with the internet age there's enough now, but that's beside the point.
Yeah.
um, Anyways, like the Jewish tradition has 5,000 years of thinking about the deepest questions, and thinking about human nature, and thinking about right and wrong, and how to find meaning in life, and all of these things for
Mm-hmm.
5,000 years. In your 90 years you might get on this planet, you're not going to scratch the surface of what that collective body of knowledge has
Yeah.
at its disposal. And so when you choose to operate without that, like, you're just operating at a huge disadvantage for dealing with these questions of life, regardless of what you think the answers are.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're just cutting yourself off from all that, and that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's a tremendous resource that people should acknowledge. But also, when you don't think that, when you're nihilistic, when you don't think there's meaning in the world, you're without guidance, because there's no point in even thinking about what right and wrong would be if there is no right and wrong.
Yeah.
But
Definitely.
the idea that there isn't a right and wrong is a confusion of metaphysical reality and language. I say the word right to mean that which is, you know, not bad. I say good to mean that which is not evil. Like, it's separating a spectrum
Mm-hmm.
of more and less um, uh, appropriate and ideal things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, if you can find meaning, deeply meaningful things that can sustain you through the struggling times, this is a Jordan Peterson ism. If you can find something that can sustain you, that's meaningful through challenging times, like, that'll help. But that's a stage one process. I'm very into the spiritual. I think that the feminine, the divine feminine, and the feminine spiritual teachings and intuitions and all that stuff was intentionally killed. Salem witch trials was intentionally stamped out and killed, and women were not allowed to be pastors or spiritual leaders. And we've lost a lot from that as well. Um, and so that goes way more deeply than we could ever get into in a podcast. But that's worth understanding as well. That there's a lot of modalities and a lot of understandings, or a lot of understanding to be found from those things. But
Yeah.
anywho, uh,
Yeah, because
oh,
um,
but
yeah,
there is meaning. There is meaning in the world, and it's not like we're individuals, and we have our own individual sort of personality and essence and experience in life and skill set, et cetera, et cetera. Um, so we're this unique individual that has unique capacities that we can bring forth in this life, and that is the meaning that we will find in this life. That it's not that the meaning does or doesn't exist precisely. It does exist, but if you choose to have a meaningless life, you'll have a meaningless life.
mm-hmm.
And if you choose to understand that there is meaning in life, and you seek out the meaning and you find the meaning, now you have a meaningful life. It's something that we grant ourselves by our beliefs and our choices. It's not something that it's like, going to drop from the sky, how to understand the universe by God for dummies. Like,
Yeah.
that's never going to happen. That's just like, and the meaning of life is hugs. Like, I don't know. Like, and like, what would the answer even be that could
Yeah.
speak to all of us, other than to do good and to love each other like that.
Yeah.
But that's, those are good and deeply sacred principles, but they're not, the day to day meaning that you'll find. But I don't know. I think if you align, I'll wrap it up this way. If you align yourself to the good, you're on my side. If you don't, you're not on my side. You're something else.
Yeah. And also, I think to probably, I'm not sure if this goes with the spiritual thing or not, but I do think, um, I think just a genuine lack of purpose, um, a huge problem I see going on nowadays. From the get go, um, like I always got along with people that had some kind of a goal. Um, rather than people that just kind of were just kind of slacker people. Like just me, I was a slacker like the rest of them, but the people that I gravitated towards were people generally they had some kind of a vision, whatever that vision was. More interesting. It's like when like here and there, like I've kind of shut myself off from like mainstream media, but can't like escape it sometimes if you go to like the restaurant or something like that and the TV playing. I could just see like just the messaging is so like there's no um the need to find purpose isn't something that is necessarily broadcasted on mainstream media at all. It's very I don't know. And I think
No,
that's
they want us to pursue pleasure because
mm-hmm,
that feeds. And this is the only time I'll ever use this phrase. This that feeds the consumer mindset. If you're encouraged to be gluttonous and impulsive and pleasure seeking, um, you're a consumer in the making. But yeah, more importantly, you're taught to find meaning from that, and you just if there's enough shows to watch and enough, uh, you know, whatever uh,
that
reality TV shows to check out and all that, like um, if there's enough things to just keep you entertained and fed and whatever, and you never have to tap into anything more deeply, you can make it through an entire lifetime and not make any progress as a person.
yeah.
And I know a lot of people that are like that, and it's a tragedy, genuinely. Because yeah, people are amazing and impressive, and
Yeah.
we just have a hard time seeing it. We spoke earlier about some things, and one of the greatest tools you could ever use for retooling yourself psychologically is thinking about your past events in your life and then thinking of it as somebody else. So if this happened to your brother, to your father, to your son in the future, how would you feel? If this happened to an 8-year-old boy, how would you feel? If this happened to a 14-year-old boy, how would you feel? Etc. Etc. That allows you to recapitulate a lot of things that are misaligned in your memory. You're like, I was like, you were 14. This is for me. I'm kind of speaking a little bit. You were 14. You faced these things. You had these issues. You beat yourself up because you couldn't succeed. But think about any other 14-year-old that was put in that position. How would you feel about them? And versus like what you did. And I'd be like, okay, well, actually, that's pretty reasonable. And I understand why it's a difficult situation, but they shouldn't feel that much pressure. Like you're just
Yeah.
14, and it's just that switch, and for those of us that are empathetic, that's a
Mm-hmm.
great tool. For those of us that can't understand that and we're like, hate other people, maybe that's not the best tool. But
Yeah. Um, I guess like I mean, let's get into another factor of all this thing. It's just the ideological factor of it. Um, I think that's the hardest thing to try to explain to someone, like why a lot of like the kid transitioning, a lot of the drag stuff, like it's not nature of being gay that people have a problem with. It's not like I don't really care about drag queens as an art form or whatever, and I, I don't give a fuck about it. It's the ideological part that is the most worrying thing. Like I remember calling this out like years ago because I noticed that the gay community was starting to adopt this ideology, and I was just like, that's bad news for this. I'm not sure what the hell why people are so drawn to it because I think people think that adopting an ideology is sort of this thing that makes you like it's like the adult thing to do where it's like it like makes you smarter, but it actually makes it's the complete opposite. It makes you just predictable. It's you very one
it,
dimensional.
it's very often shallow and
Mm-hmm.
stupid compassion.
Yeah.
I think that the intent is good on some level, is to be slash appear um, compassionate, but unless you're sophisticated in your sense of compassion and caring for other people and wanting the best for them,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna miss a lot. You talked about ideology, which is the ideas and beliefs that these people have. Um, that very much it crosses over into spirituality and like what is sacred, what is divinely meaningful and true. Some of us believe that children are sacred, innocent, to be protected, to be um, cultivated and encouraged and fed and loved, but most importantly, to be protected
Mm-hmm.
because they are the future. By definition, no one has to agree on that. That's just the truth of it. Um,
Yeah.
and some of us could give two shits about the kids. And
Yeah.
this recurring issue of students getting shot at schools, uh, uh, children being transitioned, children being required to get a vaccine to go to school, children being taken to drag camps, and children just being abused generally. Um, it's a reflection of not valuing them, and that's why this happens. The I don't understand why the right does not actively push. Um, well, it's because we don't think anything will get done. But we should push for security in schools, and schools should be protected, given armed security, given one door in and out that has a bulletproof glass 2 layers and a like middle room that you have to go into and get scanned for weapons. Like I don't think anyone would bat an eye at spending $100 billion on security for our students as opposed to sending it to the Ukraine. We can do both because it's all funded by debt, anyways, that we print into
Yeah.
nothingness. So who cares? But whether it's the local governments, the state governments, the federal governments, those of us who believe that the children should be protected should protect the freaking children.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, let's actually do it instead of just complaining about the problem. If it takes a trans shooter being blown up and being made more visible to get it to happen, then that sucks. But I don't really care what has to happen. But obviously, we should be protecting our kids. I do believe that there's free market, private sector solutions to this. I would encourage anyone that sees this or anyone that could tell anyone that could tell anyone that could do this to create a citizens guard or some sort of uh, geographic based subscription model where you pay $15 a month. And, if 1,000 people do that, you could pay a security team 15 grand a month to protect an area. And 1,000 people isn't a lot. Like this little rinky dink town in Oklahoma that I live in that I love more than death. I'm just kidding. Love more than death. That's a weird phrase. Freudian slip there, maybe.
It's very
Uh,
goth. It's very goth of
very,
you.
very emo of me.
Yeah.
No, that actually, my for the Harry Potter fans out there, my Patronus is a Thestral, so make of that what you will. Um,
Dork.
but anyways, 3,000 people, this little town.
Mm-hmm.
So if 1/3 of the residents subscribe for $15 a month, you could definitely have an adequate private security team. So um, it can work, and it would just be something to supplement and help. But if women that are being abused by cops could have someone to call, if women that are just being abused, period, young children, if just violence, if you could have someone 5 minutes away that can immediately know that there's a shooting taking place and immediately head there and immediately try to engage the issue, um, acting as a just a citizen guard, it could be something special. So I, I I would love to just see people do that, um, in the
Yeah.
traditional ways, but I think that there's a lane to do it using economics to your advantage. But it takes
Yeah.
takes the right kind of person, takes leadership, takes a team that knows how to execute. Um, a lot of things that I don't have. Otherwise, I would be doing it. So
Um.
you know,
I guess to like go back a little bit more into the ideology part of it. Um. I guess let's try to explain like why adopting an ideology is not good for people. Um. I guess I would say.
You're not so smart.
Well, it's kind of linked
Is
to that. It's
yeah.
that
That's why
it's
it's
a
dangerous.
way it's a way to like get you to think in a very predictable thought pattern that is very like black and white. That's why whenever you see, I guess we'll just go with the trans thing. It's always, especially on the like the mainstream media kind of side, it's always either praise or hatred. There's no like in between. There's no there's no like rational criticism being
Nuance.
or nuance being given to like maybe to not like uh to explain it in a way that's like, it's maybe not the best route for people to go because maybe they'll do some physical mental harm to themselves. um but when you just think of things in such a black and white issue, like you technically are being dumber. Like you're not really expanding your mind. um eh, and people are just
When
so I think when people hear like expand your mind, they think like some hippie terms, but it's really just it's about. I think a lot of this, I think, is kind of a weird attempt to try to kill critical thinking. Um, so yeah, I mean that's why I would say the ideology is just not good because it'll ultimately just lead to people being very one-dimensional thinking people, and therefore they'll be dumb. Dumb people are easy to control,
yeah,
and it stems like
they don't know how they're being manipulated.
yeah.
They're just not able to understand that. Yeah.
I mean, it's
you want
it.
you want to hear a story about when I cried this week?
Go for
Let me talk. Let me speak my truth.
it.
No, but I was meditating. I had a day off from work, and so I got to spend a lot of time doing some research. And I was meditating on uh, the male to female bottom surgery for transgender people
Mhm.
and Jazz Jennings. And there was a video that surfaced
The
of
mom.
Jazz Jennings, who was on a TV show and who transitioned. Basically, her stepmother, I think, or her mother, doesn't matter, was talking about how there was certain maintenance that had to happen with the faux vagina, the neo vagina,
Mhm.
uh, lubrication and dilation,
Yeah.
and that if she didn't do it herself, that it would be forced upon her by her mother or stepmother,
Yeah.
and that is deeply horrific to think of, and deeply horrific to think of somebody being put in such a position where their own body uh, is compromised like that,
Yeah.
requires maintenance like that, and that they are
Confused.
permanently hurt like that. And Jazz Jennings, to your point, could not address emotionally or because of her parents and her environment and the TV shows and all that crap, could not acknowledge that because of what whatever has done, what this person has done to themselves, um, is the source of a lot of the problems that this person is facing. Like
Yeah.
it just it could not. It was like Jazz could say, I hate who I am. I reject who I am, but won't articulate it in that particular way. It's not related to that magically. It's horrible.
Yeah. I truly do feel very sorry for Jazz Jennings because that is someone who's completely trapped in that situation. I mean, that is a really saddest part about it because
There's no going back for so much of what's happened.
because if she
Uh,
came out and said, "I don't want this anymore," like she's gonna get backlash from the crowd for one
and her family
and her family, but
that have
also
made money.
yeah, like the fame and the money is all gonna go away, and that's hard for someone like that to go. I mean, like
Talk about a personal hell.
yeah, like, that is like genuinely like one of the saddest shows I've ever seen in my life. 'Cause yeah.
It's a rough situation. Let's redirect to something a little bit more light. What do you think about Trump being indicted?
Well, I guess I have the most basic question is what the hell even for? You know? I know it has
They're
something
trying
to
to
do
say
with the Stormy Daniels thing, but I don't even know what they have as far as anything. Do you know what they've been given for
yeah.
a
So the
purpose?
well the allegation is that it's a campaign. It was a so it's a misdemeanor that they're trying to elevate to a felony. Um, the misdemeanor federal crime is campaign finance violations to say that this was a payoff to bury a story that would have been inconvenient for the campaign, um, which obviously has its merits, except that Trump would be the kind of individual precisely who would do that on a regular basis with all sorts of women.
Hmm.
Whether it was a fake story or not, he has the money and he could just bury it.
Yeah,
He might as well. I'm sure that a bunch of them were true, but that doesn't matter.
yeah.
They don't have to be. Um, and so yeah, so that's the crux of it. It's a
So,
stupid case, but
so I
it's
remember hearing about.
political
I remember hearing that there was a
dynamite.
letter. There was a letter that I think the Daily Wire broke that like kind of exonerated him. I forgot the
Well,
detail.
the person prosecuting him campaigned on prosecuting him, um, but when you're running to be a district attorney, you can kind of, if you assume there's a crime there, you can say that I'm campaigning on actually pursuing this crime.
Right.
Um, so it's justifiable to a degree, but um, these are weak charges. I saw a bunch of mainstream media that was also acknowledging that it was weak charges.
Really.
Um, a lot of people are talking about the Democrats trying to recompose themselves for 2024.
Hmm.
And this kind of thing being attempted and failing is the kind of thing that cleans up the reputations for Democrats a little bit in some ways. In some ways, it doesn't. It looks very, partisan, but um,
Um.
they can at least say that they tried. They can tell their constituents that we tried to take that orange man down.
It's like I genuinely don't like understand the hatred uh over him. Like I can understand just not wanting to vote for someone and saying fuck them. I'm just over it. But like there's this almost religious type of hatred towards him and like what they think he vaguely represents, and it's so to me. Like I've seen people like doing backflips, just saying that they're so happy he's such a criminal and stuff like that. Asking for specifics of like why is that's just gonna trigger them to just get mad at you. Again, it makes me wonder
I
like
dealt with this with family. Um,
yeah,
Someone talked about, he's such a criminal, and I was like, what crimes are you talking about? Because like, I'll admit that Trump will use the legal system to his advantage, but that's still legal.
mm-hmm,
It's not criminal, even if you think some of what he did is wrong. I don't. There wasn't anything that I remember seeing that I thought was wrong, but that's beside the point. Um, but yeah, this person just couldn't come up with anything that was concrete. Um, but yeah, I don't know. We live in a topsy turvy world, man.
yeah,
Freaking, Trump was investigated for years because he was a threat to the system,
yeah,
fundamentally. But Trump was, investigated for 3 years for being an alleged Russian asset, and there isn't a Democrat in the country that will talk about the fact that Joe Biden is a verified Chinese asset and Ukrainian asset for that
yeah,
matter. Um, like we know he's compromised for these other countries that have, in China's case, plenty. Oh, that pod. there was a podcast recently with Alan West,
Hmm.
the Patrick Bet David podcast, and on that podcast, Alan West talked about how during the Reagan years there was an incident with some terrorists threatening some people, and there
Yeah.
was military action taken within 24 hours. That was juxtaposed against the fact by Patrick Bet David, juxtaposed against the fact that it took us 5 days to shoot down a freaking balloon. And I just thought that was the funniest thing ever because it's so true that
Yeah.
like it was a Chinese spy balloon and we didn't shoot it down for a week and everyone's just like kumbaya, everything's fine, nothing to look at there.
Yeah.
It's like, our commander in chief didn't pull the trigger on that one. Who could have seen that coming?
Yeah. But there's this like I don't think people understand people that are celebrating like how dangerous it is when there is legit, you know, political prosecution like that. And I don't see like how do you convince them to or can you convince them to at least see why that's bad? It's so weird.
Well, we have to be able to talk about both sides of it and just the conservative take generally is, once the government does X, now the government can do X whenever it's convenient.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's like the like Ron DeSantis banning CRT or trans stuff or anything, and if some good books get banned in that process, like that still shows that government shouldn't have the ability to control what information we do and don't have ultimately, and that government control over schools is a bad thing. But whenever I've had my left wing friends or acquaintances or whoever just come up and talk about, the don't say gay bill and or anything like that, I'm like, so you have a problem with the government being in control of these things, or you just disagree on this one rule? Because if you just disagree on this one rule, like I agree on this one rule because it has the exact same consequences as the other rules. Like
Yeah.
it's still neutral. It's just a better option. But
Yeah.
anyways, um, sorry, I jumped around a little bit. But
Thanks for talking about Trump and the indictment.
yeah,
Um, like, where do you see this going?
nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, too. That's what.
I think it'll be great television.
Yeah, but I'm just worried about like the people that are convinced he's, Satan. That after
Mm.
this doesn't go anywhere,
Oh,
like where are their where's their mental state gonna be? Because I legit I've been following this artist. I may have talked about him on the show before, but it was one of those things where like I followed him at the beginning because I just liked his art. But he's name whatever like mainstream narrative that has been awful and failed. He's like just took the bait on everything. He's you name it, anything. And like I've slowly kind of been watching him post like go more and more just further into like further from reality. And he's just one guy. I can't imagine the people that have no self awareness, like where their head is gonna be at, where their head is gonna be at. I mean, after this doesn't go anywhere.
yeah. I think that there's an argument, and this is what these people are thinking, that no one should be above the law, and criminals, even if they're in politics and in power, should be prosecuted.
Okay, it's
Like,
fair, I guess. But
I can see that. But then the question is the system corrupt? Yes. Is the system taken over by corrupt forces? Yes. So if we start prosecuting political people and political candidates, and this is a more normal thing, then this is going to be abused to try to take people down. There's an argument that this has already been happening.
yeah,
Um, that's fair. Um, I don't know. I think the more we can just live within our own power and basically try to make it so that these people don't matter to our lives, legally and otherwise,
Hmm.
the better off we are. Um, that's the only solution. It's sort of a backing out of giving up responsibility for your own life to other people, which
Yeah,
is a
like
very
I've
vague
been,
way of saying it, but
yeah,
it's the essence of the issue.
yeah, that is one thing I try to tell people, like just to just not pay attention to them. Like they don't own your life. You can make your own decisions. Like
Anarchists, like Michael Malice says, you don't speak for me, and the rest is application. I am the only person that speaks for myself. Uh, sorry. I'm the only person that speaks for myself. I'm the only person that can make decisions for myself. That is a perspective that people
yeah,
need to adopt. And the more we do that collectively, the more powerful we are collectively. And that this touches on something interesting because there's this like beef between the individualists and the collectivists, but there's this little sort of sleight of hand magic, Uno card, whatever, that the individualists have, and that is that when you speak of the individual, you speak of everybody. So it
hmm,
is collective and individual in the same sense. Now, if you just say collective and what's best for society, then you could kill some people, and that's what's best for society,
yeah,
just because, like, whatever,
yeah,
just for fun. Uh, but if you say that the individual is sovereign, the individual is covered, and by definition, the collective is as well, because we're all just the individual. So, and if we're all equal before the law, we're mostly good to go. So, yeah, it's something that individualists should speak more about. That like we're not trying to leave anyone out. I'm not trying to be a. I'm not gonna like try to achieve success in life and then just tell everyone to stuff it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, I had an interesting, and this speaks to deeper things, I think. But I had an interesting exchange where I shared a post talking about how you have to kind of close some doors, turn the blinders on, put some people out of your life, go and achieve,
Hmm.
and then you can kind of come back and help lift everybody else up. But you have to have that separation for a period of time and really get the work done.
Yeah,
Um, this person responded to that post saying that I want to leave everybody behind. That was the source of it, and I'm like, you get it completely backwards. I want to bring everybody else up,
yeah.
and the only way I can do that is with ability, not with bitching. Like you know you there's actually in Ephesians chapter 5, I believe. I recently had a Bible study with my grandfather that we went over this. We have a weekly one, usually before the podcast, actually an hour before on Fridays. Um, Anywho, um, it just talked about the fact that you should go and make something of yourself and be productive and plentiful and work with your hands so that you can have extra to give to others. So the goal, the final destination is generosity, but you're capable of being much more generous if you have stuff to give. If you're a brokey, as the Tates and the G fans like to say, if you're a brokey, you can't help anybody. You can't help yourself, But if you have money, and it's interesting, it's not about me taking from you. It's about me providing more for everyone, and that's how you make more money. Um,
I guess on a
it's
side
a
note,
it's
I've
interesting.
never asked anybody this, but I mean, like, what is the, I guess, purpose of Bible studies? I guess 'cause I don't know if I've ever asked anybody that.
That's good. One is just to be familiar with the material. Another one is it's a belief in many religious. It's in the Bible, but it's a belief that where two or three, it's either two or three or more are gathered. I think it's three or more are gathered. God will be there. Um, Whenever I pray with my grandfather beforehand, we do pray before the Bible study, and we pray for guidance and for understanding.
Hmm.
You could ask, you could change the word from God to the universe or to whatever, just to what is.
Hmm.
I am in the Bible is being itself. It doesn't matter what words you use. You're just trying to call forth from whatever is outside of you uh, something, and sometimes it works. When you ask for inner strength or inner help, sometimes you get it. If you're asking for like a Ferrari, you know, stuff
Yeah.
it. Anyways, but the purpose of a Bible study is to, understand the literature, to reflect on the ideas that it talks about. Um, a lot of people don't understand what the Bible is. Parts of the Old Testament are rules that are written down, but a big chunk of the Old Testament is just songs, like lyrics of songs. Psalms, the book Psalms, is just a bunch of lyrics of various poems and songs. Um, there's a bunch of prophets that brought forth truth to various people at various times that's documented through the Old Testament. The time of Jesus on this planet is Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the first four books of the New Testament. Then there's a bunch of letters from the apostles that to the various churches. So there was a country called Ephesus, a country called Galatia, and a bunch of other ones that the leaders of the Christian movement at that time, Paul, I believe, wrote letters to these churches while he was in jail for being a Christian, to give them guidance and to teach them about how they're failing and how they can succeed. Those and then there's more. There's prophecies and Revelation and some other stuff. But the point is, especially with Ephesians and these letters to these churches, it's speaking to people and to the body of Christ about how we can live better. And I've gotten a lot of value out of that. So it's about the purpose. It's about the pursuit of meaning. It's about discovering the meaning for yourself, for how you can be your best self. Because like I mentioned earlier, there's an ideal version of us, and we should want to bring that version of us, uh,
Right.
into a manifestation,
Right.
into actuality. We want to be self-actualized, which is another way some people will talk about it. But it's whenever you can say I've arrived, whatever magical formula it is that allows you to finally say I'm here.
Yeah.
I've gotten to that point. Whatever. Um, Actually, that was a weird thing to say because I meant it in both ways. Like you can say that, but I also believe I have kind of gotten over that hump where
Yeah.
I'm not past the problems, but there's a separation and strength I have over the problems. There's a mastery of the problems I have now that I didn't have before. But it's kind of a dick thing to say, anyways. I'll just shut the fuck up. But anyways, um, but I don't
um.
know. You got to celebrate your victories, man. That's
Mhm.
a big thing. I had a hard time celebrating my victories in life.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like, well, you failed a little bit less today. Good job.
Yeah.
um, Anyways,
I guess before we go, was there any other stories you wanted to get into? I mean, Tate was released today, and was what else?
they're still on house arrest. The investigation is still going forward, but I think this is a sign towards their ultimate innocence. It's a good development. They could have kept them for 6 months, and they let them out in 3. So
Yeah, has it been
I
3 months?
think this is a sign the investigation is going nowhere. But on previous programs, I've talked about the fact that the question is, did he abuse anyone
Yeah.
throughout this whole process? And hopefully he didn't. I would prefer that the universe be that he did not abuse anybody. That would be better than if he had abused some people. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's interesting. For the people that are not Tate, for the people that have not done a deep dive on Tate and his philosophy, this is about the best thing that could have ever happened to him, both in the sense of the intrinsic reality that he is in a jail cell and he had a bunch of time to just do a bunch of push-ups and just to meditate, just to think and to plan, and that he had to sort of separate from doing anything and just think and operate through his network of business partners and assistants and all that. Um, and
I get.
also that they're going to come back with a vengeance if they are ultimately exonerated. Like it's going to be like nothing you've ever seen before.
Would you
And
say
it and
that?
it's happened before. Hitler was put in jail. Nelson Mandela was put in jail. Trump might be put in jail. Tate was put in jail. It makes people, whether they're good or bad, it makes people an icon when the system puts them in jail for unjust reasons.
Yeah. I guess would you put yourself? Would you say that you're a Tate fan?
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
there anything?
I
'Cause I genuinely don't know much about him. I'll be honest. But like, is there anything within his, I guess, philosophy that you disagree with?
that I disagree with. Yes. Um, it's hard because he is a competitor, so the way he speaks to people in podcasts is to beat them,
Mm-hmm.
not to explain the deepest truths of his own philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, he said that he believes that female infidelity is grosser than male infidelity because female infidelity is more emotional, male infidelity is more visceral, physical,
Right.
thoughtless.
I got you.
Um, the point being, when I listened to that, was they're both gross,
Yeah, yeah,
but the fact that he's highlighting something interesting, but he's kind of putting it in this unnecessarily stupid way to trigger some people. Um, and it's both gross, but yeah, sure, you could say that that extra element that is not true for all men, not true for all women, but true mostly for women more than men
yeah.
is true on some level. Like it's such a small, very nuanced aspect of truth. It's hard to go. Honestly, I'd have to go like point by point, but like 99.7% of his philosophy I agree with. I think he's extremely well thought out, um, uh, extremely intelligent. Probably has an IQ around 147 to 160, somewhere in there. Like he's up there for the from the intellectual standpoint. The difference between him and I, assuming everything he's ever said about his lifestyle is true, let's just assume he's not like
A
lying
fraud. Yeah.
about whether or not he's married, whether or not he has kids, whatever. Let's just assume he's been honest about everything. What he wants out of life and what I want out of life are very different. But we both believe that you should follow what you believe is right. But he did not choose the path of a soulmate to try to seek out a soulmate in life, to try to find an equal that could encourage and love and guide and be a confidant and et cetera, that someone that could match them in the love arena. He doesn't seem to have really pursued that. He has pursued relationships that, uh, in a somewhat one-sided manner, serve him best. So he's going to be promiscuous. He's going to always pursue more women. He will discard you as soon as you're uh, holding him back. You basically exist to be his ideal, perfect little robot. And he's talked about that. He talked about that on the Your Mom's House podcast. That I love his delivery because I'm a troll at heart. But um, anyways, he was saying like I had this one. Uh, so this is what he said. He said, so I had this one lady come up and talk to me, or this one girl come up and talk to me, and she was like, Andrew, you're really smart and handsome and rich and successful and hardworking and blah 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 blah. And he went on a bunch of stuff. I bet you would hate to have a woman who just was obedient. You want a woman who's more interesting. And he's like, lady, I would love if you were just obedient. I would love if you were a robot. Like they were saying, like, you wouldn't want a woman who's just a robot. He's like, no, I want the robot. Um, and there's a certain side of men, a certain aspect of the population of men that's just what they want. They don't want the deep relationship. They just want somebody who's there to facilitate a life.
Yeah.
Um, I'd want more than that. I've pursued a different path, but it's not for everyone.
Right.
Um, he's it's not for him seemingly. So yeah, there's disagreements, but he believes in discipline, hard work, honesty. He believes that men should be protectors of women and children. Um, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's lived up to that in his own actions. I believe he hasn't, but um, his beliefs are often in the right place, and he speaks truth. He speaks truth about women in particular that offends a lot of women because they're not perfect.
No.
They have a dark side just like we do, and people that are willing to, I like. I'm guilty of this absolutely. Like I love women. I think that they're awesome. I think that there's a the divine feminine has such a cool root to it that is expressed in so many different ways amongst women. Like it's cool.
Yeah.
Um, and so uh, with that can come a hesitancy, and I've grown out of this, but can come a hesitancy to criticize them when you should, and to be fair in your discussions. There's a danger of idolizing women and elevating them to like saint status when they're just a person, which isn't fair to them or fair to you. So,
Right.
um, but yeah, because he is willing to like trample all over those norms and like do the mariachi dance like on top of on,
Yeah.
on top of that doesn't even make sense, but on top of that norm, it offends a lot of people. But you know, when you don't care about what other people think, you're genuinely fearless in that regard. You can speak truths that are, you can speak truths that other people are too scared to think. You know, and there's power in that. When you can see things and perceive things that other people can't because they emotionally can't handle it, that's power.
All right, I guess we can kind of start ending it. It's been over an hour. I don't know. Is there any kind of final thoughts for this week and what the fuck is going on in this world?
Um, uh, what we do, I would just say to everybody, what we do here is problem solving, which means we're too focused on the problems, not so much the solving.
Mhm.
Um, Understand that like strength and success and improving all these problems is not going to come from the internet precisely. Like conversations matter,
Yeah.
but how you will actually make an effect in your life is like helping the people around you, your friends, your family,
Yeah.
you know. So just I would just tell everyone, remind yourself when these things happen of what matters. Obviously, we would hate to have any family member killed because of a shooter, and so just take note and say, hey, you know, I gotta remind myself to be grateful for the people that are in my life that you know aren't guaranteed to be here tomorrow, and that's a great place to start.
Well said. All right. Yeah, I guess I'll just ditto to that. I got nothing.
Appreciate that.
I'm not the most prepped, so I apologize for that. um,
You don't have a Jerry Springer preset
Final
statement
thought,
for Jerry's
no. Final
Senor
thought.
Filth thoughts at the end of the podcast.
I should work on something like that.
Yeah,
It'd be pretty awesome. But
that'd be cool.
I mean,
Filthy
I
thoughts,
guess
but THOT.
I got that. That's pretty fun. I guess I would just encourage people to like it's one thing to like listen to podcasts that talk about some of the subjects that we talk about. It's also important to people to like engage themselves in these kind of conversations. It's not healthy to just be in your own head all the time. You know, find whatever like-minded people you can. You know, even if it's through social media, just DMing people, seeing what's going on. Like just little things like that are actually a lot are something. Um, and just don't be afraid to just have these curiosities, have these conversations. Like the reason I just did this, I started this show wasn't for like any financial purposes because I don't see that money coming in through this venture. I just kind of just did it for self, you know, have curiosities and for other people that I know also have these curiosities and we don't really have the chance to like speak about these things with our coworkers or family or like fucking barista or Starbucks. Like we can't really, you know, we need to be able to, you know, voice our concerns just so that we can get to some kind of a answer to whatever problem. see. So, I guess I'll just leave it there. Just try to find like-minded people. If you if you'd like to maybe join in on this conversation, you could definitely leave a comment here, or leave a question. If you have a specific topic or something that you would like us to kind of talk about in the show, just recommend it. Stuff like that. I guess shameless plug. I would say I'm in the middle of working. I'm in the middle of putting together some designs to pins and stuff like that. So gonna be vending definitely in June. So be on the lookout for that. Uh, Hopefully, once I'm done with my editing, my movie episode, I can focus all next week to just trying to start up my music show to get that up and running. So yeah, that. Um, you know, you definitely have to like tap into the culture. That's what I'm trying to do. Because boring conversations aren't the most attractive to everybody, so you have to kind of reach them through other ventures. So yeah, just be on the lookout for that. So I guess I'll just leave it there. Jordan, you get back on anything?
I just want to say I'm thankful for getting to be on this program again. It was a great conversation. I'm glad we had it. Um, I enjoyed myself quite a bit, and it exceeded my expectations. So that's pretty cool. In a good way. I had good expectations for it, but yeah, no plugs or anything. I just hope everyone has a wonderful time and a great week, and yeah,
Yeah. All right.
hug somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. Take your girl on a date or something like that. Just enjoy the rest of the night.
Yeah,
All
buy
right.
someone flowers, chocolate.
Yeah.
I don't know, a soda, just something. Do something nice for
Yeah.
someone random.
A back rub, something like that.
Be careful with that one.
All right,
There's,
guys.
there's a few people at work that might not like that.
All
All right.
right, guys. See you.